This guide covers all the actions Gunbreaker as of 7.4 of Dawntrail learns from level 60 to 100 in order. We go over how each action is meant to be used and recommend ways to use it when relevant. We start with a tutorial on how to play Gunbreaker at level 60, and then as we work our way to level 100, going over how to make the most of every action the job learns on its way there. In the final summary at level 100, we outline an optimized opener and explain how it leads into the general rotation alongside burst considerations. We also touch on the stat priorities of the Gunbreaker. I also have videos on more general tanking advice for those newer to the role, link in the description. Now then, Royal Guard serves as your tank stance, greatly boosting your enmity generation, causing enemies to prioritize attacking you over others. This should typically always be turned on, unless you have a co-tank who is going to main tank. Always keeping it on is a nice default if you're not sure. Next, No Mercy is a crucial part of the Gunbreaker combat rotation, boosting your damage for 20 seconds once every minute. Gunbreaker relies on this buff to boost the damage of all of its hardest hitting moves to do significant damage in a fight, making the rotation revolve around it. As an ability, often referred to as an off global cooldown or OGCD, No Mercy can be used between your ordinary weapon skills, also known as global cooldowns or GCDs. This is often referred to as weaving. Late weaving No Mercy can sometimes allow you to fit an extra GCD inside the buff window, but this relies on you having some skill speed, which you likely will have as a result of the gear you happen to have as you level up. Late weaving refers to using an OGCD as late as possible between two GCDs without delaying the next GCD. Take note that using any action incurs a bit more than half a second of animation lock where you cannot use anything else. I have a separate video explaining these concepts in more detail, link in the description. Using No Mercy as often as you can is crucial to playing Gunbreaker. Next, let's talk about your basic attack combos. Keen Edge, Brutal Shell and Solid Barrel serves as your filler single target combo, or 1-2-3 combo. Brutal Shell offers some healing that also additionally shields you for the same amount, and Solid Barrel produces a cartridge for your powder gauge which you use for certain more powerful attacks. You can store up to 2 cartridges, and preferably you should only use both of them during the No Mercy window. For area of effect, or AoE for short, you have the combo of Demon Slice and Demon Slaughter, where Demon Slaughter produces a cartridge. This combo is superior to your single target combo when there are at least 2 targets present, and so should be used instead in those cases. Although, if healing is an issue, do remember that Brutal Shell heals you. The fact that this combo is only 2 steps also means it generates cartridges for you faster. Now, for your cartridge spenders. Burst Strike is a simple big swing with no side effects. If your next weapon skill would produce a cartridge, but you already have 2, then you can use Burst Strike to spend it without cancelling the combo. During the No Mercy window, Burst Strike takes priority over the cartridge generators on 1 or 2 targets. With 3 or more targets, it is generally better to skip Burst Strike in favor of more AoE combos, even if it means cartridges go entirely to waste. This then leads us to the Gnashing Fang combo. This combo costs 1 cartridge to start, but then leads into 2 additional steps for free. While the Gnashing Fang combo does not cancel your basic combos, both of your basic combos will cancel your Gnashing Fang combo. The 3 steps of the Gnashing Fang combo are Gnashing Fang, Savage Claw, Wicked Talon, and are performed simply by using the Gnashing Fang button repeatedly, as it automatically changes into the follow-up actions. At this level, the Gnashing Fang combo is worth using with up to 3 targets present. With more targets than that, the AoE combo is superior. Gnashing Fang has a charge time of 30 seconds and can hold 2 charges, meaning that once a fight is properly underway, you can reliably fit 2 whole Gnashing Fang combos inside every No Mercy window, and you should aim to do so. Let's continue on to your other attacking actions. Whenever you use No Mercy, it turns into Sonic Break for 30 seconds or until you use it. It is a GCD that does a decent amount of damage and includes a damage over time component, or DOT for short. Using Sonic Break during No Mercy will increase the damage of the DOT for its full duration. On up to 7 targets, it is worth using Sonic Break over the AoE combo if a particular enemy in the pack will survive the full DOT duration and, has enough HP to justify it. Note that there's nothing preventing you from holding Sonic Break until a bit after No Mercy ends if other options are stronger initially. Danger Zone is an OTCD to use between your attacks on a 30-second cooldown. You should use it on cooldown, making sure every second one is in the No Mercy window. Combining all of this leads us to the rotation that consists of alternating between the No Mercy burst window and the filler cartridge building time in between. As, at the start of a fight, you will often have no cartridges, your opening burst will often look slightly different. Now, let's talk about some of the more tank technical stuff. When pulling enemies, you can use Lightning Shot as a ranged option as its enmity multiplier makes it apply a ridiculous amount of enmity to the target. I recommend pulling with this attack, especially bosses. Provoke serves as the classic taunting action, placing you at the top of the enmity list and applying a huge amount of enmity to the target after that. As it is an ability, you can weave this between other actions if you so desire. However, in content with multiple tanks present, I recommend only using Provoke strategically to switch who is tanking the boss and such. You can combine Lightning Shot and Provoke to easily pull 3 to 4 enemies at range without stopping, which can be very helpful for pulling multiple packs at once in a duty. In content with other tanks present, Shirk offers a way to push whoever's currently tanking further ahead, which can be helpful if you prefer to keep Royal Guard on. Trajectory is a gap closer that generates a small amount of enmity on your target. It is mainly helpful for positioning as it allows you to quickly dash up to an enemy. However, it is not always the best choice to dash up to an enemy for pulling, as it can lead to your team falling significantly behind. It is, however, a decent option for engaging enemies and generating some initial enmity, and for repositioning in a fight. Take note, it can only be used to dash to enemies. Finally, let's talk about defensive cooldowns. In Final Fantasy XIV, defensive cooldowns stack multiplicatively, which means using multiple at the same time diminishes the value of each of them. I have a separate video in the description that explains this in more detail. In most regular content, tanks can survive perfectly fine with just one appropriately powered cooldown running at a time, which gives rise to defensive cooldown cycling, keeping at least one defensive cooldown running on you at all times while fighting packs. Of course, there are exceptions where you need multiple defensive cooldowns at once, but keeping a rule of thumb to only use one at a time is a good starting point. A specific cycling sequence also does not need to be strictly followed, and you can mix and match your cooldowns as you need. If you do wall-to-wall pulls, then you can typically expect 1-minute cooldowns to be available for every pull at some point, while anything with a longer cooldown than that will only be available for about every second pull. As such, it is best to only use one big cooldown for each pull if you can get away with it. As an example of a defensive cooldown cycling sequence, you could use Nebula, then when that runs out, Reprisal, then Camouflage. Then for the second pull, use Rampart, then Reprisal, then Arm's Length. Arm's Length is only effective against regular enemies, but can be immensely powerful due to its attack speed reducing effect. The rest of the cooldowns simply have varying degrees of direct damage reduction. Gunbreakers also have access to Aurora, which serves as a potent heal over time effect. This can be very effective if your healer is having a hard time keeping up with the damage, but notably, Aurora can also be used on other players, which can be useful to save someone in a tough spot. Don't forget to use this regularly. Finally, Super Polite is your invulnerability cooldown. While it does make you invulnerable, it also puts you at 50% HP, assuming you don't already have less. For this reason, you should preferably only use this when you're already below this point. But if possible, try to plan it with your healer so they don't waste cooldowns themselves due to the timing. A notorious example being using it just a moment after the White Mage uses Benediction to fully heal you. Also take note that Low Blow can be helpful to stun regular enemies when needed, and Interject can be used to flat out interrupt interruptible actions, which are signified by a red, pulsing and flashing cast bar. Now, to summarize at level 60, let's cover an actual boss fight opener and rotation. Make sure that you have Royal Guard active, unless there is another tank who's using their tank stance, in which case this is optional. As you run up to the boss, pull with Lightning Shot and then use Keen Edge, Brutal Shell and Late Weave No Mercy. Then use Solid Barrel, weaving Danger Zone, Gnashing Fang, Sonic Break, Savage Claw and Wicked Talon. Then use Keen Edge, Brutal Shell, Solid Barrel, finishing No Mercy with Burst Strike. Then generate a new cartridge and perform one more full Gnashing Fang combo outside of No Mercy. If your GCD is 2.48 or slower, No Mercy will likely not cover the Burst Strike at the end, in which case you can choose to simply skip that and move directly to Gnashing Fang. In this situation, it is also not necessary to late weave No Mercy anyway. This then leads to the general rotation. Gunbreaker's rotation revolves around fitting as much damage in your No Mercy window as possible, and then building up to do it again the next minute, while also making use of Danger Zone's 30-second cooldown to get an extra hit in outside of Burst. While everything is on cooldown, you simply go through your 1-2-3 combos and only use Burst Strike if your next combo step is Solid Barrel while you're full on cartridges. No Mercy should then be used on cooldown, which means that exactly when in your 1-2-3 combo it comes up can vary, and the best way to go about it is to consider a priority list. Whenever you weave No Mercy, use your weapon skills in the following order: 1. Gnashing Fang, 2. Sonic Break, 3. Savage Claw and Wicked Talon, 4. Burst Strike, 5. 1-2-3 combos. While doing this, make sure to use Danger Zone in between weapon skills for the extra free damage. Most of the time, your No Mercy will include 2 full Gnashing Fang combos, 1 Sonic Break, and 1 to 2 GCDs of a mix of Combo Filler and Burst Strike. In the opener specifically, the reason why Burst Strike is used at the end is because it does marginally more damage than Gnashing Fang, and the rest of the Gnashing Fang combo, which is stronger than Burst Strike, simply won't fit. For AoE adjustments, use Demon Slice and Demon Slaughter in the place of the 1-2-3 combo on 2 or more targets, in place of Burst Strike on 3 or more targets, and in place of the Gnashing Fang combo on 4 or more targets. While Sonic Break does a ton of damage, it being single target may make it less worthwhile on 4 or more targets if there isn't a really healthy target to use it on. With that, let's continue on past level 60. At level 62, you learn the ability Bow Shock. This AoE attack's cooldown always lines up perfectly with No Mercy, and so it should be added to the No Mercy window, regardless of the number of targets. At level 64, you learn the ability Heart of Light, which reduces all damage taken by your party, with magic damage reduced more. If you see the boss start casting an attack that sounds like a raid-wide AoE attack, use Heart of Light. To identify whether an attack is actually magic, take note of the icon next to the damage number when you're hit. A purple staff or wand indicates magic damage, while a blue sword indicates physical damage. A green POW icon means that it is so-called unique damage, which typically ignores specific damage reduction like Heart of Light. At level 68, you learn the ability Heart of Stone, which is the Gunbreaker's short cooldown defensive option. It can also be used on other players, and when used in that way, it actually copies your Brutal Shell shield, if you have one, to the target, which is neat, but not something you should plan around. Because of the short cooldown of Heart of Stone, I recommend using it as your first defensive cooldown in your order on large pulls. For dangerous tank busters on bosses, Heart of Stone's cooldown is so short that you can reliably use it alongside another defensive cooldown if you need it. This also applies for the start of a large pull if you need it. Alternating between Heart of Stone and other cooldowns also enables you to maintain one defensive cooldown for a really long time. At level 70, you learn the ability Continuation. Whenever you use a step in your Gnashing Fang combo, Continuation itself turns into a follow-up ability that you can use and should use immediately for extra free damage. In particular, after Gnashing Fang, it turns into Jugular Rip, after Savage Claw, it turns into Abdomen Tear, and after Wicked Talon, it turns into Eye Gouge. This changes your single target rotation in the way that it adds 3 additional OGCDs to every Gnashing Fang combo, which does also affect your No Mercy windows a bit. With Continuation's bonus damage, the Gnashing Fang combo is better to use than the AoE 1-2 combo on up to 4 targets. I recommend targeting the healthiest mob in the pack when doing so, or alternatively sharing the love and switching around a lot. Since level 60, Heart of Light has been added as a raid cooldown, and Heart of Stone offers a very reliable way to greatly expand the amount of cooldowns you can access in a fight. For damage, Bow Shock and Continuation adds a bunch of extra OGCDs to your arsenal. For your opener and your bursts, make sure to weave Bow Shock as early as possible where it fits, and make sure to weave Continuation in each step of the Gnashing Fang combo. It is typically only possible to, at most, double weave, meaning 2 OGZDs per GZD, so it is a good idea to plan around this. Assuming your GZD is such that you can fit 9 GZDs inside your No Mercy reliably, your opener changes slightly. Finish the No Mercy with Sonic Break instead of putting it early in it, moving the Burst Strike 1 GZD back, and then replace that Burst Strike with Gnashing Fang and Jugular Rip. This adjustment is necessary as while the late weaved No Mercy will cover Gnashing Fang as the last GZD, it very likely will not cover Jugular Rip, so moving a GZD that does not have a follow-up like Sonic Break to the end is preferable. But it is important that Sonic Break can fit, as at present it is your strongest single attack. At level 72, you learn the weapon skill Faded Circle, which is an AoE alternative to Burst Strike that beats it on 2 targets. It also beats the Gnashing Fang combo on 4 targets. Naturally, fitting as many Faded Circles as possible in the No Mercy window is optimal on AoE. Outside of No Mercy, use Faded Circle if your next GZD will generate a cartridge you don't have space for, just like with Burst Strike. At level 76, you learn the ability Bloodfest, which instantly generates 2 cartridges, but also allows you to hold 2 more for the next 30 seconds. Do take note that it requires a target and will put you in combat with said target when used. Bloodfest's cooldown is 1 minute, perfectly matching with No Mercy, and its use timing should line up with No Mercy every time, although they don't have to be used precisely together. This both gives you resources for a better opener, but also enables you to go into your bursts with more than 2 cartridges reliably. For the opener, weave Bloodfest after the initial lightning shot, but use No Mercy at the same time as before Solid Barrel, and then do Gnashing Fang, Sonic Break, Savage Claw, Wicked Talon, followed by 1 more full Gnashing Fang combo, then Solid Barrel, and if you can fit a 9th GZD, Burst Strike. For all other bursts, the sequence of 2 full Gnashing Fangs and Sonic Break, followed by a mix of Burst Strikes and Solid Barrel, will be your bread and butter. At level 80, Danger Zone is permanently upgraded to Blasting Zone. This does not change how you use it, although it nearly triples its potency. This is, of course, compensation for losing the cooler name. Since level 70, Faded Circle is introduced as an AoE cartridge spender, which takes priority over Burst Strike on 2 targets and over the Gnashing Fang combo on 4 or more targets. Bloodfest is also introduced as a very reliable resource boost for every No Mercy window. Finally, Danger Zone is upgraded to Blasting Zone for a large potency boost every 30 seconds. For an opener example, pull with Lightning Shot and weave Bloodfest, then use Keen Edge, Brutal Shell, then late weave No Mercy if your GZD benefits from that. Then use Gnashing Fang weaving Jugular Rip, then Sonic Break weaving Blasting Zone and Bow Shock, then Savage Claw and Abdomen Tear, Wicked Talon and Eye Gouge. Then a whole Gnashing Fang combo again, then Solid Barrel, and if your GZD permits it, finish with Burst Strike in No Mercy. For bursts after the opener, Bloodfest should enable you to finish each burst with a Burst Strike if your GZD is slow, or a combo of 2 Burst Strikes or 1 Burst Strike and 1 Solid Barrel, reliably. At level 82, Heart of Stone is permanently upgraded to Heart of Corundum, which increases its duration to 8 seconds and adds the additional effect Clarity of Corundum, which is identical to the original damage reduction effect, although on only a 4-second duration. It also adds Catharsis of Corundum, which lasts 20 seconds and heals you a significant amount either if you drop below half HP or if the timer ends. This massive upgrade does not change that much in how you use the ability, since you would already want to use it extremely aggressively. Perhaps the situational healing would give you a reason to use it even more aggressively. Notably, if a party member is below half HP, you can use Heart of Corundum to instantly heal them if you don't need the cooldown for yourself. In Endwalker leveling dungeons, you may find that enemies hit surprisingly hard, and rather than fitting Heart of Corundum between other options, you may sometimes need to combine it with other cooldowns when you reach your destination at the start of a large pull. At level 84, your 1-2-3 combo gets a significant potency boost, however not significant enough to change anything for your rotation. Additionally, Aurora gets an extra charge, so you can use this a lot more freely, and even save a charge for when you really need it. At level 86, you learn the Enhanced Continuation trait, which causes Burst Strike to also activate Continuation, allowing you to use Hypervelocity. This significantly boosts the damage value of Burst Strike. as this means Burst Strike now also has a follow-up. If your burst would lead you to have a 9th GZD Burst Strike, move Sonic Break to the 9th GZD instead to make sure Hypervelocity goes inside No Mercy too. If you cannot fit 9 GZDs inside No Mercy, if you have 4 cartridges on the GZD you're going to use No Mercy on, instead use Burst Strike, weaving first No Mercy, then Hypervelocity, to sneak in a bit of extra free damage. This kind of trick gets expanded on more in the max level section on Wicked Mercy. Do take note that you need to early weave No Mercy consistently for this to work. At level 88, your powder gauge is expanded to hold 3 cartridges instead of 2. Also, Bloodfest is upgraded to grant an additional cartridge to match, and expand your max storage to 6 during Bloodfest. However, despite the icon existing with 3 cartridges, Bloodfest's icon is not replaced. I have to live with this knowledge, and now you do too. For your No Mercy window, this of course means that you can go into the burst with up to 3 cartridges and perform the burst with 6 cartridges on hand. For the opener, this allows you to have Burst Strike as the 8th GZD and Solid Barrel as the 9th. For every other burst, you can be sure every GZD that isn't Gnashing Fang combos or Sonic Break will be Burst Strikes, and the early weave trick with Hypervelocity should be reliably available to you as well. However, at level 90, you learn the weapon skill Double Down, which on a minute cooldown, perfectly lining up with No Mercy, does a huge amount of damage with an AoE component. It also uniquely costs 2 cartridges instead of 1. This should be used in every No Mercy window. Naturally, Double Down should be used on any number of targets, as it is your strongest attack for all occasions, including birthday parties. In fact, especially birthday parties if you replace the explosions with fireworks. Due to Double Down's mildly restrictive cooldown, placing it earlier in the burst window is preferable. I recommend using it right after the first Gnashing Fang step, pushing Sonic Break back 1 GCD. The increased cost means that after finishing the Gnashing Fang combo, specifically for the opener, you must then use Solid Barrel, followed by another full Gnashing Fang combo. If you can fit 9 GZDs in No Mercy, simply push Sonic Break to the 9th GZD as before. If you can only fit 8, however, Wicked Talon will miss the buff entirely, and a solution here is to use No Mercy after the Solid Barrel in the opener instead. What is better can vary a bit, so do as you prefer. Since level 80, Heart of Stone got upgraded to Heart of Corundum, your 1-2-3 combo got a potency boost, your powder gauge got an extra slot, and Bloodfest was upgraded to fill it and, increase it too. Burst Strike now also has continuation, and Double Down is added as a new massive strike. In your opener, Double Down simply replaces a Burst Strike, and I do recommend using Double Down early in any burst to get it out there. Another detail is that as Burst Strike has an OGD follow-up now, it may sometimes be handy to adjust your burst in such a way that Burst Strike is not last. Assuming your target will stay alive for the foreseeable future, you can push Sonic Break really far back in the sequence as long as No Mercy lasts. On the other hand, if the boss is dying, pushing Sonic Break to the front may be preferable. To account for the higher cost of Double Down, here is an adjusted opener to help you if you have a GZD of around 2.5 and can only fit 8 GZDs in No Mercy. Pull with Lightning Shot weaving Bloodfest, then Keen Edge, Brutal Shell, Solid Barrel weaving No Mercy, Gnashing Fang weaving Jugular Rip and Bow Shock, Double Down weaving Blasting Zone, then finish the Gnashing Fang combo and do an entire Gnashing Fang combo again, and then finish with Sonic Break. If you can fit 9 GZDs in No Mercy, instead start the burst after Brutal Shell, Gnashing Fang, Double Down, finish Gnashing Fang, Solid Barrel, another whole Gnashing Fang combo, and finish with Sonic Break. At level 92, Nebula is permanently upgraded to Great Nebula, making it reduce damage even more, and also increasing your maximum HP by 20% for the duration, and healing you for the same amount. This does not change how you use it, but it does make it a lot more powerful. At level 94, Rampart is upgraded to also increase healing received in its duration, and also, basically, all of your single target attacks get a potency boost. Notably, this makes your 1-2-3 combo superior on 2 targets, so you should switch to the AoE options on 3 or more targets. However, at level 96, Fated Circle is upgraded to also activate continuation, turning into Fated Brand. This, of course, should always be weaved afterwards for more damage. Notably, this actually makes your AoE combo better on 2 or more targets once again, because it leads to more Fated Circles faster. On exactly 2 targets, I still recommend using the Gnashing Fang combo over Fated Circle. At level 98, Reprisal is upgraded to last 15 seconds instead of 10. This does not change how you use it. At level 100, Bloodfest is upgraded to also grant you Ready to Rain for 30 seconds, or until it is spent, and turns Bloodfest into Rain of Beasts, which is a weapon skill that deals amazing damage with an AoE component, that leads into a Step 2 and Step 3 combo of its own. Combined, this combo does a ludicrous amount of damage. Take note that this Lionheart combo breaks the Gnashing Fang combo and vice versa, so you should make sure to finish one before doing the other. As Gnashing Fang is limited by a cooldown and the Lionheart combo has a 30-second timer to be used in, it often makes sense to use the Gnashing Fang combo first. The existence of the Lionheart combo actually leads to a handful of changes to the rotation, but we will cover that in the max level summary now. To round off, let's first talk about an opener followed by general rotation, as well as how this works with the burst, as Gunbreaker's odd and even minute bursts are identical. And finally, let's briefly touch on stat priorities on gear. Gunbreaker's opener and rotation can vary somewhat depending on your skill speed, and getting the most optimal rotation can get quite specific. I will try to highlight the differences between fast and slow GZDs as we go. That said, let's begin. Pull with Lightning Shot, weaving Bloodfest, and then use Keen Edge, then use Brutal Shell, and if you intend to use a Gem Draft, use it here. If you can fit 8 GZDs inside No Mercy, weave No Mercy first, then Gem Draft. If you can fit 9, weave the Gem Draft first, then No Mercy is late weaved. The order may matter for what comes up later. Then use Gnashing Fang, weaving Jugular Rip and Bow Shock. Then use Double Down, weaving Blasting Zone and then Sonic Break. Then finish the Gnashing Fang combo remembering to weave continuations, and then follow it up with Rain of Beasts, Noble Blood and Lionheart. If your GZD is 2.47 or faster, then it is important that you late weave No Mercy, as this will allow you to also sneak in a solid barrel at the end of the opener as a 9th GZD. After that, you use the cartridge produced by this solid barrel to do a whole Gnashing Fang combo again. This then leads to the general rotation. Gunbreaker's rotation revolves around the No Mercy burst, and building and setting up for the next No Mercy burst during the filler. An extra, optional optimization we will also cover is the pre-No Mercy Gnashing Fang setup, which, for convenience, I will refer to as Wicked Mercy for short. Let's start with the filler rotation. This essentially boils down to 1, 2, 3s, and if your next GZD is solid barrel, but you already have 3 cartridges, then Burst Strike comes up. Around the middle of the filler section, Blasting Zone comes up and should simply be weaved on cooldown. If you are not going to be using the Wicked Mercy optimization, then the filler rotation also features one full Gnashing Fang combo somewhere, which you can fit wherever it makes sense, as long as you don't hit 2 charges of Gnashing Fang. Bloodfest is, of course, used approximately on cooldown, meaning it should naturally come up shortly before No Mercy every time. The No Mercy burst always features a full Gnashing Fang combo, a full Lionheart combo, Double Down and Sonic Break, as well as Blasting Zone and Bow Shock, typically starting with Gnashing Fang Double Down, but not necessarily in any particular order. If your GZD is 2.47 or so, or faster, late weaving No Mercy allows you to fit a 9th GZD in somewhere, which defaults to being a Burst Strike, solid barrel in the opener. Assuming the 9th GZD is Burst Strike, placing Sonic Break at the end of No Mercy to make sure Hypervelocity catches No Mercy is a solution. This then leads us to the Wicked Mercy optimization. How it works and how impactful it is varies depending on whether your GZD allows 8 or 9 GZDs, and also whether your GZD is exactly 2.50 or something else. Let's start with the easier version. When your GZD is such that you can fit 9 GZDs inside No Mercy, commonly possible with a GZD of 2.47 or so, but sometimes possible with 2.49. Test it for yourself, as several factors can play in. If this is the case, the Wicked Mercy optimization is performed by using your extra Gnashing Fang, the one you would have used in the filler, 2 GZDs before No Mercy, so around 3 or so seconds before No Mercy is ready. If you have been using Bloodfest diligently exactly on cooldown, the same for No Mercy, the GZD that immediately follows after Bloodfest should be the one you use Gnashing Fang on. Assuming it is performed correctly, you then late weave No Mercy as normal, and Wicked Talon will be your first GZD for the burst, replacing the 9th GZD Burst Strike. The rest of the No Mercy window will, as usual, be a full Gnashing Fang combo, a full Lionheart combo, Double Down and Sonic Break. Not necessarily in that order. If, on the other hand, your GZD is such that you can only fit 8 GZDs inside No Mercy, then Wicked Mercy is slightly different. One thing that is important to note to begin is that regardless of what your GZD is, Wicked Mercy means you are not performing 1-2-3 combos for 11 consecutive GZDs. This matters because if your GZD is precisely 2.50, then fitting 11 consecutive GZDs between two 1-2-3 combo steps will be exactly 30 seconds, which drops your combo if you have one going. If your GZD is faster than that, it may give you a fraction of a second of leeway, allowing you to pick up the combo anyway. Because of this, it is highly recommended you aim to begin the Wicked Mercy setup into No Mercy while you don't have a running 1-2-3 combo, for the 8 GZD version. Similar to the faster method, you perform a Gnashing Fang combo leading into No Mercy. However, as 8 GZDs does not afford you the space to fit an extra Wicked Talon, we instead aim to sneak in an Eye Gouge. This is done by using Wicked Talon, weaving No Mercy, and then Eye Gouge, which requires Gnashing Fang to have been used 2 GZDs prior. If you meter it out wrong, you can still salvage it by using No Mercy followed by whatever continuation you have. In fact, a simpler, slightly weaker version of this is to use Burst Strike, No Mercy, Hypervelocity, as it removes the whole Gnashing Fang lead-up part of the problem. This is also the thing that I mentioned earlier in the guide when Hypervelocity was added. If you meter it out wrong and end up entering No Mercy in the middle of Gnashing Fang instead of after it, simply finish the Gnashing Fang combo and then place the intended Gnashing Fang combo sequence at the end of the No Mercy window to make space for the other GZDs you want in the burst. The way you set it up such that you're not in the middle of a 1-2-3 combo when you start the Wicked Mercy is by making clever use of Burst Strike. Your burst requires 3 cartridges, 4 with Wicked Mercy. 3 of them are provided by Bloodfest, meaning that if you have 2 or 3 cartridges, those extra cartridges are going to be burst strikes at some point anyway. With a GZD of 2.50, 1 minute of your rotation covers 24 GZDs, and 11 of them are covered by 2 full Gnashing Fang combos, Double Down, Sonic Break, and the Lionheart combo, leaving 13 filler GZDs. To ensure you are not in a combo when you start the Wicked Mercy, you need at least 1 Burst Strike to leave 12 filler GZDs, and if you need more Burst Strikes than that, the requirement jumps to 4, as you need to replace a full 1-2-3 combo. Naturally, in the heat of battle, you might lose GZDs to downtime, mistakes, lightning shot, or whatever, meaning that in a real battle it isn't quite so simple. Additionally, it is worth considering that the damage gained by performing the Wicked Mercy optimization overall is very low, so if boss mechanics prevent you from doing it, or focusing on it is too hard, focus on mastering a fight first, and then optimize this trick into the sequence. For AoE adjustments, on 2 or more targets, replace Burst Strike with Faded Circle, and your 1-2-3 combo with your 1-2 AoE combo. On 3 or more targets, skip the Gnashing Fang combo. On 4 or more targets, unless there's a healthy target that makes it worthwhile, consider even skipping Sonic Break. This also simplifies your No Mercy windows more and more the more targets there are, but notably, Double Down will always be way better than Faded Circle. All of your OGCD options, Blasting Zone, Bow Shock, and Bloodfest, as well as the Lionheart combo, should still be used as they are on single target, very aggressively. Finally, regarding stat priorities. Take note that in nearly every single case, item level beats out optimal secondary stats. This means you should always prioritize gear with higher item level as long as it has strength on it. After that, Gunbreaker's stat priority is critical hit, then direct hit and determination, and finally tenacity. Direct hit and determination are almost identical in value, however, prioritizing whichever one you have less of tends to have a bigger impact on your damage output. As direct hit never occurs naturally on tank gear, they will always be ever so slightly superior to determination to melt with materia. Tenacity increases damage output less than the other options, but does reduce damage taken substantially. This is generally not needed in most content, however, if you are trying to overcome a particularly difficult fight and believe it might help, it might be worth trying. It is, however, not a common choice. Skill speed is an interesting stat for Gunbreakers, as your burst and your resource generation is heavily impacted by whether you have a GZD of 2.48 or slower, or 2.47 or faster. This cutoff point occurs because the faster GZD allows a 9th GZD during No Mercy. A particular breakpoint is 2.40, as it will allow you to fit an additional GZD per minute, primarily making your resource generation more flexible and making cooldowns align more reliably compared to anything other than the 2.50 GZD, which also does that. If you like to play with the 9th GZD No Mercy, I highly recommend the 2.40 GZD. Whatever speed you do prefer, try to fit as much crit in as you can while also fitting in the skill speed necessary. Now, that is all for this video. Thank you so much for watching. If you would like to support me and my channel more directly, you can become a member like these wonderful people here. You can also alternatively support me through Twitch or Ko-Fi, links in the description. You can also support the channel by letting the YouTube algorithm know by liking the video, leaving a comment, subscribing, sharing, and hitting the bell to get notified when next I post a video. Fun fact, Aurora's potency of 300 makes it, when accounting for passive bonuses, the second strongest single target healing over time effect available to normal jobs in Final Fantasy XIV, maxing out at 1800 potency total. White Mage's regen may only be 1500, but due to Maim and Mend, is effectively 1950, which is why Aurora is second place.